My wife Ella and I had been together for 7 years, married for 5. Like any couple, we had our ups and downs, but I always thought we had a strong foundation. I believed in our love, our compatibility, and our shared vision of life. Ella was the kind of person who lit up a room with her smile, and despite the occasional bumps in our marriage, I always felt like we could get through anything. But 2 years ago, everything changed. One evening, out of nowhere, Ella sat me down. Her face was pale, her hands trembling, and I could tell something serious was coming. My mind raced, trying to anticipate what she was about to say, but nothing could have prepared me for the words that followed. "I cheated on you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, the world stopped. I remember staring at her, trying to process what she had just said. It felt like a punch to the gut, knocking the wind out of me. She explained that it happened once during a housewarming party with a coworker. That night, she didn't come home until 4 a.m. I remembered the night vividly because I had been worried about her, sending her several texts asking if she needed a ride or if she was okay. I knew she didn't usually drink, but I figured maybe she had overindulged due to peer pressure. The confession came out of nowhere, but Ella swore it was just one time. She told me that it had been eating her alive for months, and she couldn't keep it a secret any longer. She seemed genuinely remorseful, and part of me believed that. She even quit her job voluntarily to show she was committed to making amends and proving that she would hold herself to better boundaries. Despite my pain, I began to reflect on my own past. When I was 19, I had cheated on my then-girlfriend, though it was only a drunken kiss. It wasn't nearly as severe as Ella's betrayal, but it still made me feel like a hypocrite. My ex had forgiven me, and part of me wondered if I should give Ella the same chance. Maybe it was possible to move past this, rebuild trust, and work toward a better future. After all, our relationship had been great in every other way, and she was the most compatible partner I had ever had. Eventually, after weeks of emotional turmoil, I made the decision to forgive her. But I did so under one condition, that she would sign a post-nuptial agreement. This agreement protected our premarital assets and included an infidelity clause that would penalize the cheater with the forfeiture of jointly owned property, cars, and alimony in the event of a divorce. Ella agreed without hesitation, and we both had independent legal advice to ensure everything was fair. With the post-nup in place, I felt like we could move forward. We went to therapy, rebuilt our relationship, and I slowly began to trust her again. For 2 years, things seemed to be going well. I convinced myself that we had moved past the affair and that Ella was truly committed to making things right. But that all came crashing down last month. It started with a Facebook message from someone I didn't know. The message was from a woman named Alice. She introduced herself as the wife of Bill, the coworker with whom Ella had cheated. She had tracked me down through Ella's social media accounts after discovering her husband's infidelity. In the message, Alice explained that she had caught Bill cheating on her and that, after going through his electronic devices, she found evidence of his affair with Ella from 2 years ago. She asked if I was aware of it, and I replied that I was. I even thanked her for letting me know, thinking that nothing new could possibly shake me after everything Ella and I had been through. But then Alice dropped a bombshell that changed everything. She told me that Ella and Bill hadn't just slept together once. According to the texts and emails she found, they had been having an affair for 5 months. They had met up over 10 times, and their relationship had been far from the one-time drunken mistake Ella had led me to believe. I felt sick to my stomach. The blood drained from my face as I stared at the message, rereading it over and over, hoping I had misunderstood. But the more I read, the clearer it became. Ella hadn't just made a single mistake. She had been lying to me for 2 years. I responded to Alice, asking if she was sure it had been a physical affair the entire time. Maybe it had just been an emotional connection, I thought, grasping at straws. But Alice was certain. She confirmed that it had been physical for months, that they had hooked up regularly. My hands shook as I set down my phone, my heart pounding in my chest. I had been living in a lie. That weekend, I confronted Ella. I couldn't keep the truth inside any longer, and I needed answers. She sat across from me, her face pale again, as I told her about Alice's message. At first, Ella tried to downplay it, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. When I pressed her further, she finally admitted the truth. It hadn't been just one night. It had been a full-blown affair lasting 5 months. She admitted they had slept together over 10 times, meeting up after work, sneaking around behind my back. I was furious. I felt betrayed all over again, but this time, it was worse. The initial affair had been a gut punch, but I had been able to forgive her because she confessed, because I believed it was a one-time mistake born of poor judgment. But this was something else entirely. This was months of calculated deception, a long series of deliberate choices to betray me, to lie to my face day after day. When I asked her why she hadn't told me the full truth 2 years ago, she said she didn't believe I would have forgiven her if I had known. That made me even angrier. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore. It was about the fact that even in her confession, her main priority had been protecting herself. She hadn't respected me enough to tell me the whole truth and give me the chance to make a fully informed decision about our marriage. After that confrontation, I began to seriously reconsider everything. The trust I had worked so hard to rebuild was shattered. I had thought we were making progress, but now I realized that progress had been built on lies. Ella kept trying to convince me that it didn't matter whether it had happened once or 10 times. She argued that her confession showed true remorse, and that we had already made 2 years of progress since then. But I couldn't see it that way anymore. To me, the omission of the full truth was just as damaging as never telling me at all. I started thinking about divorce again. This time, I was ready to rely on the post-nup we had signed. The terms were clear. If we divorced because of infidelity, I would come out in a much better position. The house, the car, and most of our assets would go to me, and Ella wouldn't be entitled to alimony. At this point, I didn't see how we could continue. The trust was gone, and every time I looked at her, all I could think about was the months of lies, the secret meetings, the betrayal that had stretched far longer than I had ever imagined. Ella suggested going back to couples therapy, but how could therapy fix this? 2 years ago, I had gone into therapy thinking we were repairing something broken. Now, I felt like I was uncovering cracks that had been hidden all along. I trusted her even less than I did back then, and I didn't know if I had the strength or desire to go through the process all over again. Now, I find myself at a crossroads. Divorce seems like the logical next step. The post-nup is in my favor, and I know I'll be in a much better position financially and emotionally without the weight of constant doubt and distrust hanging over my head. But there's a part of me that wonders if I'm making the right decision. We spent years together, built a life together. Can I really walk away from that? Ella is still trying to convince me to stay, to work through it. She insists that the affair is in the past and that we've come too far to give up now. But how do you rebuild trust when it's been broken twice? How do you forgive someone who has lied to you for years, who has kept secrets from you even in their moments of supposed honesty? I don't have the answers yet. All I know is that the version of my marriage I thought I had for the past 2 years was a lie, and now I have to decide whether to keep living in that lie or to break free from it once and for all.